Can you hear it? No. Okay. Let me try that again. I know what I did wrong. Technology is great, which is hilarious because that's the topic. So let me do, because we have to have the intro. It helps if you hit the share sound button.
Wake up in a panic, we're in over our heads again. We know this is what we're meant to do. So we wake up, put our feet on the floor, go and conquer the day like a warrior, like warriors. Cause that's what a tribe does. We got your back so you can relax and focus on all the important stuff, like getting your business done. This is our tribe. We look out for each other. That's right, that's right. This is our tribe. We help each other grow in business and life. That's right, that's right. No need to panic anymore. We got lots of support and an army of warriors by our side. We fight the good fight when we unite. We fight the good fight when we unite. Cause that's what a tribe does. We got your back so you can relax and focus on all the important stuff, like getting your business done. This is our tribe. We look out for each other. That's right, that's right. This is our tribe. We help each other grow in business.
Hey everybody, my name is Sondra Ray, and obviously I am technology challenged today. And guess what the topic is? Welcome to the Coffee Chat Show. We're going to talk about technology and tools for your business. The humor of the fact that I didn't even push. Yeah, when you share screen, you have to push share sound. The lesson for everybody. There's your first lesson on technology. Definitely. So we meet every Monday to talk about topics that have to do with helping you run your business. I don't want to say small business because we don't have to be small. We're growing. Everybody's growing. So that we help entrepreneurs all over the world. I have the amazing Explore ProTech community with me. Mr. Peter, how are you today?
Oh, I'm absolutely brilliant. I'm actually glad we're talking about this topic because it's something that I struggle with. And I think that sometimes when there are things that we struggle with, the more we talk about it and the more information we have, the easier it makes life. So I think for me, I'm glad that we're talking around the fact, and not only about technology. I think the one thing that we need to make clear is that we're not here to sell a particular type of technology. So we're not going to be discussing one technology and say, you got to have this only now for $99.99. There are so many things out there, some of which are free, but you just have to do your homework. For me personally, I'm an extreme dyslexic. So, when it comes to building my space, getting my voice out there, creating content, these things can be a bit of a challenge. However, I think if you're smart about the way you approach technology, I don't think approach technology just for what it does, but I think approach technology based on who you are and what it can do for you and your specific needs. I discovered a method the other day, which if I'd realized sooner, I would have been a little bit further ahead. And it's something quite simple, which is voice to text. Really simple, free. I found that in creating posts or content, for me to sit down and write something that's legible, or just to get the ideas out of my head and onto paper, voice to text is absolutely brilliant. And then taking my own ideas and not just asking ChatGPT to generate ideas, but taking my actual own ideas and using ChatGPT to then formulate that and write it out in a way that it belongs to me, which I think is an ethical way of creating content. Please don't ask ChatGPT to do it for you. Everybody can see that. But I think if we look at technology and go, how do I utilize what works for me in functioning my space? And I think that for me is a great topic of conversation.
I agree. Um, like you said, technology, well, one, technology is ever changing. It's never the same. So what yesterday's technology is not today's technology. It is what it is. Which is why when you do your quarterly review, you review all your platforms so you know, are you still getting what you want? So one of the biggest tips I give people when it comes to technology and tools is, what are you using it for? What can it do? And are you getting the most value out of it? So even free, you know, why are you using it? What do you want it to do? Are you getting your value from it? Because people sign up for trials and pay for subscriptions all the time and forget and all the things. Again, if you do a quarterly review, you can catch that stuff. So yeah, it's an important thing because there is so much out there, and everything from, writing content to managing your clients to managing your projects to managing your social media. There's a gamut of things. And of course, everybody has their favorite or, whatever works best for them. And I think everybody has to find their own path. I work with amazing, amazing creative ADHD clients, and, certain project management tools is not for them. They can't do the minute details and things. That's overwhelming for them. So simplifying it and so on and so forth. So yeah, what tools are helping you in your business? I guess that's a good question to start with. Does that sound like a good place? And everybody's business is unique, but I mean, that's one thing about the Coffee Chat Show is we're bringing unique perspectives.
Okay, can I jump back in?
Yeah, no, of course.
I think, before we decide on what tools we actually use, we need to take a look on why do we actually need those tools? Because there's so many out there. Like for instance, when we started our space, we went through CRMs, like there were candies. And you'll find that like a certain CRM will have all these added benefits, but then it doesn't have the one thing that you need. And then you'll go somewhere else that has the one thing that you need, but it doesn't have something else. And it just becomes this play on finding what works the best. And it's not to say that one is better than the other. It's just what works best for you. And even in regards to CRM, so it took a while for us to actually figure out and find, well, actually, this is what works for us. And I think once you find what works, it just helps your workflow, just your space, how things function. It becomes just that much more seamless. And what might work for me might not work for somebody else. So for me to stand here and go, this is the best, might not be true for somebody else because their space is different. And I think when they market things, when they go, this is the best or that's the best, I don't believe that there is the best out there. I believe that there is a right for you or a right fit. And what I might use, Lesetja might not, or Krista might not, because it doesn't work for them. So I think it's important to actually not only do your homework, but test things, because it might surprise you. You're like, oh, this feature I didn't know. Let me try this, and it might work for you. And I think that's where and why technology grows, because the more curious we get, or the more we go, well, wouldn't it be great if we could do this? And I think that's why it's great working with some of the techpreneurs in our space, where they're building out some of their technology, and you respond to them going, this is great, but can it do this? And they were like, not yet, but that's actually a really good idea. And then you watch it grow and you watch it develop in front of you. And watching that journey is fascinating. Absolutely love it.
I love that. I love that. Um, yeah, like I said, I definitely think knowing what you want it to do and what you want to get out of it is like the first step. Um, and then yeah, checking on it as it grows, because yeah, technology again, this changes all the time. And I know a lot of platforms will send out newsletters or ways for you to check that, but let's be real, a lot of us don't want to read 15,000 emails about their improvements. So it's kind of on you to go check the features that's going on with that. Um, Mr. L, how do you use technology, or what is your perspective on this?
Look, I think, Sondra, the very first thing that I would say is we need to move with the changes. We cannot be stuck in the old technology. If there's something that can simplify your work for you, use it. You don't want to spend the whole day punching numbers into an Excel spreadsheet when there is some that you can use just to populate those and calculate for you. So one, we just need to move with technology. I think, and it's sad when I see young people still stuck in the old. And I'm gonna say, when you go to events these days, you don't have to go and buy a ticket that gets printed and you buy a ticket, they give you a QR code or whatever they give you, and you present that at the door. And they at the door, they've got something they can use for you. So for me, when I do events, I don't want to be printing tickets. I don't, because who still prints tickets? In this day and age. I think I'm old enough to still be using that, but I'm adapting with technology as it goes. So there's a lot, and as Peter rightly mentioned, you use the one that works for you. I mean, to set up your meetings or reminders and all that, there are so many of those. And I think when these came up, there were people that are saying, I use this one and I swear by it. And I find for me, it's difficult to use. I can't use it. I don't know what it is that I have to do on that, but they swear by it. So find something that works for you. And I think what we can do as well, I think within this space, you've got people that have got knowledge enough to be able to guide you. Tell them what you want to do with whatever technology you want to use, and they will guide you. They will not say, use this one because it works. They will guide you into how you can approach that. So there's no one size fits all or one shoe fits all. There's a lot out there. So Peter, you rightly mentioned, use something that works for you. Thank you, Sondra.
For sure, for sure. Thank you, Mr. L. Yes, and sometimes it's trial and error. You can sign up for something and be like, okay, that did not do what I wanted it to do, or the free version doesn't do what I want to do, and is it really worth bumping it up to this level, to this level? I've had that happen multiple times. I had signed up for something years ago and convinced a new client to use it, not realizing they changed the tiers and what was in each tier. And then I had to kind of tuck my tail and go, oh, but it costs this, not this. So, which was my bad. I didn't do my research. I went on what I bought it for 3 years ago, and that was wrong on me. So I didn't do my research on what was now included. Like I said, today's technology is not yesterday's technology. So I got burnt. Not burnt, but yeah, I felt bad because I didn't present it the way it should have been in the price range it should have been. But we got past it, and 2 years later, we're still working together. So he must have forgiven me. Come on, go ahead, Peter.
I think when we work in spaces where we deal with a lot of people, we have to find what works. But if we don't go through the things that don't work, we will never find the thing that does. And if you start with one thing and then you get stuck with it, you will never find out what you could have actually done with something that might be better for you. So, like, if you're functioning with a particular CRM, and that works for you, then that's great. But it pays to investigate what's new out there, because certain spaces are years old, and there's new technology coming out. For instance, I was actually on a meeting earlier with Kelsey, and Kelsey she is the owner of Jira Marketing, and that space, or that CRM, was designed around course builders, and that's what we do. So the CRM actually works for us, as well as being able to facilitate our website or the website building. And the amount of CRMs that we had to go through before to get to that point. And I found that what really ended up happening was we would use one tool because it would give us some of what we needed. Then we'd use another tool because it gave us something else of what we needed. Then we would use a different tool because it gave us a different aspect of what we needed. And we would end up using multiple tools to build something, and then it becomes confusing and convoluted, and there's just so many different working parts and so many bits and pieces, and you've got to pull information from left, right, and center, and it just didn't work for us. So it pays to do your homework. So when I find somebody like Kelsey, I'm like, oh my goodness me, you're a lifesaver, because this actually does all the things that I need. That might not do it for you, but you've got to investigate. You've got to go through that journey of finding what does actually work. I think even in the students in the background that are watching on YouTube, or the Ignite students, like when we say let's yak, and all you guys know exactly what we're talking about. All the students that are yakking on the Let's Yak platform, which was an LMS system, like a learning management system that was built out specifically for students. And when we tested it last year, there were certain functionalities that the students then pointed out, hey, wouldn't it be great if it could actually do this? Or we found it difficult to function because of this process. And then in having somebody like Declan go, well, I can fix that. I can change that. I can build it. And then having the students this year functioning on Let's Yak are having an absolute ball. I think this week they are specifically focused on Let's Yak because that's where they're communicating outside of the WhatsApp group. But test things. Be curious. I think that's what it's all about. You'll never really know what you could have done unless you actually become curious to see what's out there. And you may find something that doesn't work, but you'll keep looking until you find something that works the best for you.
I agree a lot, Peter. System and process audit is actually a service that came about because clients didn't know what they had, what they signed up for, or how it was working. So I sit down and map that out and list that out. And like one client had 12 different systems and could have easily condensed it down to like 5. And paying a very pretty penny for all of that. So I do offer that, and I also tell people to do it in their quarterly review because, again, like you said, everything's changing, improvements. I know a very popular email campaign platform just raised their prices again for like the 3rd time this year already, and it's only August. And people are squawking because it's like, hello, it's a top email management platform. And so they feel they can raise prices, which I get that. That's part of being in business. But a lot of people have been looking and asking all over a lot of the groups I'm in about what do you use, what is better, because we don't want to pay these premium prices for a basic technology. Miss Krista, I'm not going to assume, but I feel that you use technology a ton.
Oh, yes.
So tell us a little bit about how do you figure out what to use and when to review it and so forth?
Well, for me, as a writer and amateur skier who just happens to be blind, basically, if I didn't have tech, I wouldn't have my business the way it is now. And so the issue here is access for me. That's priority number one as a blind person, because I use software that speaks or outputs whatever's on the screen to a braille display. And so that involves the right coding, the right way of basically machine learning and machine processing and all these different tech not tools, but like modalities working together to allow a blind person to access the web or other software tools. So that's the first consideration. Is it accessible? Am I able to actually use it? Is it coded? Does it match some or all of the standards? And if it doesn't match the standards, I like to say, oh, it's clunky, because it's a nicer way of saying, yeah, they just totally didn't care about accessibility or didn't know about it when they programmed it. So I'll just say, well, it's clunky. So if it's really clunky, can I work around the clunkiness? I have to work around a lot of clunkiness in my life, but I try to keep things clean. One program that I found that has a very clean UI for both blind and sighted people is Less Annoying CRM, if you've ever heard of it. There's other software that I've used, but in terms of how to determine whether to use a piece of technology or software or whatever, does it make my life more efficient? Does it improve my workflow? Or does it help me to actually reach more of the right people that I need to reach? And unfortunately, like Peter was saying, there's a lot of trial and error in this, and it can be very lonely, because even if you aren't blind or don't have a disability that requires some additional tech to play with, there are still situations where we're like, gosh, I really need this thing, and the other people around me aren't using this thing, but it really works for my business. And it can be lonely to try to find tech that incorporates that particular thing along with your other requirements. But that's why groups are so wonderful, because when you do find people who have your similar needs, then you can ask and you can sort of let them know and say, oh yeah, I've found this program that works for me for this.
I love that. I love that, Krista. We're all nodding our heads in agreement with you 100%. Yeah, it can be lonely when you're trying to look for a specific thing and you can't find that in your community that you're in. One of the students talked about she's a visual person, like she needs color and she needs, all the graphics and all the things. And
so kind of the opposite.
Right. So we all learn differently. I'm visual too.
Yeah,
I
that's
prefer
cool.
I prefer to not be something read to me. I prefer to read it myself. So I definitely can agree to that. And I've found that certain tools will work more towards people that are visual, or they want read to, or they want to read themselves, or whatever that is. But yeah, definitely you want tools that are going to make your business more efficient. I think that's the bottom line. You want tools that are going to help you be more efficient, more productive, make money. You also have to take that cost. Tools that cost or expense in your business. So make sure you're putting that in your budget, and when you're claiming your expenses, every tool, Zoom account to
So true.
a CRM. Yeah. Because people, I only pay it once a year. It's only blah, blah, blah. Or a Bode, I think, is like $12.95 a month. What's still $12.95 a month? So it goes in my budget. I don't care if it's $12.95 a month. It's still $12.95 a month or something like that. I think they raised it. But anyways, it's a monthly fee. And then, making sure you pay attention to those yearly fees for platforms like Zoom or some of the bigger ones that you only pay once a month, or you get a budget discount if you pay for the whole year. Just make sure you're putting that in your budget for things, and then of course reviewing it. Mr. Hendrick, are you available? He looks like he's doing like multiple things. Okay, so the topic is leveraging technology and tools and enhancing your business efficiency. So for you, I would think that looks, of course, way different than the rest of us, because you're doing physical, but I'm sure you still use technology, right, for parts of your business?
Yes, good evening, everyone. Sorry I'm late. But I think with regards to the topic again, everyone gets to use technology at one stage. For example, I use it mostly for communication one, and also project deliverables like our project management. We also do use our project management softwares, which assist us in tracking the milestone, the achievables in the project, and every step actually of the project. You are able to identify the team, what you need, and then break it down into break the project down into small chunks, like your teams, the resources you'll need. So all those, we get them from the softwares that we use, the project management softwares that we use, even though we have people who are qualified in that field. I feel like the project management softwares make life a little bit easier for them in that aspect, that they have already like a template that sorts things out for them, and then it's easier for them to know or to just fill into those templates as to what is needed, and plan as to what they need to achieve, and be able to track all those plans that they had from the inception or from the initiation phase of the project to when we hand over again the site. So for us, most of the softwares that we use or the technology that we use is in those two aspects.
Find the mute button. I like that. Where's the mute button? For sure. Funny. I was just talking to Nestine about project management and having that written in her proposal and making sure she's writing that accordingly, because tools are great, but there's also a human element to it, Hendrick. I mean, like you said, you have to set it up, you have to run it. And I think there was also somebody on YouTube that said that too. You know, there's always a human element. Somebody has to input the things. Yes, there's a lot of automation and you can bring things over. I worked in a system over the weekend and today that they did not have any exporting capabilities. So I exported 8 months of invoices by hand. Was not fun. But some companies are like Peter said, some companies don't. And I think Mr. L said that too, that they don't move with time, they don't move with technology, and then they're stuck back here. And if you work with them, you have to figure out how to bridge that. And my husband is one of those people that still prints the ticket to the movies. Don't ask me why. He still does it. I just look at him like, okay, it's a totally wasted paper, but okay, go for it. Yeah, he's old school, as he says it. And the funny thing is, he actually works in the technology field. But the funny thing about that is that who he works for, they are about 4 years behind technology. So it's always interesting how that works, especially since they're a federal entity. It is what it is. So, Peter, what else should we consider when we're looking at tools and technology in our business? Especially when we're new and we don't have like all the money to spend on a gazillion million things.
Yeah, I think in the beginning of your entrepreneurial journey, I think the brand the brand Builder Bear. I think it's international.
I don't know that one. No.
Okay, sorry. In South Africa, there is this teddy bear store. It's called Builder Bear, and you can literally arrive and pick up your naked bear, and then you can dress your teddy bear and customize it so that when you buy your teddy bear, you're leaving with a teddy bear that's customized. And it's a bit of and I think for new entrepreneurs, it's pretty much like that same concept, Builder Bear. You you have a space, you have to take a look at exactly what your requirements are. Why do you need the technology? What do you need it for? What is your customer's experience going to be based on the technology that you've chosen? So there's a lot of things to take into consideration. But then at the same time, if you're not investigating things and looking for new ways to, and this is something that's consistent. I can tell you the amount of times that we've changed from one technology to another or one tool to another has been, I cannot explain to you how many tools we've been through, and each one of them has been a vital part of our journey. And what we may have tested and may not have worked for us, and we had to move on, may have worked perfectly fine for somebody else. So it's not about going which is better, which is worse. But the one thing I would really like to highlight, and Krista mentioned it, and I think she mentioned it the best, was the accessibility. Because I remember when I first met Krista, I think it was at a networking event that we were having, and I remember typing in the chat and people were responding in the chat, and I kept realizing that Krista keeps responding first. Every single time I write a question in the chat, she's responding in the chat first. And my initial thought was, she's just really quick. She's just really fast. Like her brain just works really fast. But then I realized that the software that she was using to translate the text to speech so that she could hear what I was writing was set at a higher speed. So she's hearing it quicker than anybody else can read it, which is why she was responding faster. And I think that thought process. So if you're looking for a really quick-witted writer, then go to Krista, because she's going to answer you. I was pressing like send message, and then poof, there's an answer, and I was like, whoa, I just sent it. I got to a point where I was actually typing a message, and I was still poking the screen going, watch this, and I would press enter to send the message, and poof, like there's the answer. And I think if the spaces that are creating new technologies are not taking accessibility into consideration, then they are missing out on a whole variety of people that are extremely skilled, but they're not going to empower them with their tech. And I think if tech is guided in a way that, I mean, even myself, I have a disability. It's nothing major. It's not visible. It doesn't affect me physically, but I battle to read things correctly, and I battle to write things correctly. And I've had to find a way around that by using multiple things to figure it out. So using voice to text, and then taking voice to text and putting it into ChatGPT, and then asking ChatGPT to draft that in a paragraph like that, and then go back in and remove certain words that I wouldn't use because they're not mine, and I don't like using words that are not mine. So I think it's all about consideration. And if we are going to step into the space of just finding out what works and what do people need, but then taking that need and then solving it, and then making the solution highly accessible. And I know it's difficult to make things accessible to everyone, because it becomes a little bit of a coding, like possibly a coding nightmare. However, I think people in tech should make that one of their priorities. There are entire communities. In some cases, you look at some tech and you're like, oh, that's great for me. But they're missing out on entire communities of incredible people because it's just not accessible. So I just couldn't believe how quick she was. I was like, goodness me, she's blowing my mind. I'm pressing enter and the answer's right there. So, but that's because she's using technology that is accessible and it functions and it works. And I wouldn't have had that privilege if it wasn't for that. So I have the privilege of having the amazing Krista, a writer, in our space because she has access to technology that works. So that to me is like, that's bonus points.
I love that, Peter. It gives us a different perspective, a new perspective. And I love that about the tribe. We all come from different perspectives. We're international, all over the world, all types of businesses, all those things. One tip I wanted to throw out there is if you're, say you want a CRM, a customer relationship management system, you can type in Google. Google is your friend. So you can type in compare X system to Y system to Z system, and it'll pull up a whole bunch of articles. Here's a tip. Make sure the article isn't written by one of those platforms you're comparing, because it's going to be a tad skewed towards them. But there's plenty of platforms that do comparisons. I've done it many times, and I've just be like, and it'll show features that are the same and the features that are different, price points and things like that. Of course, make sure it's up to date. But I do find that's a good way if you're looking for a specific tool to do a specific thing, and you Google that and you come up with 100 tools, then you're like, okay, where do I start? You got to start somewhere. So that is definitely one way to do that, so that you are not overwhelmed and you're not doing research on your own or taking that valuable time. There's people out there that do that. So definitely use that to your advantage. Some of the tools, again, we said everybody's unique, but some maybe basic tools that most businesses use is some kind of bookkeeping. That could be paper and pen. But some kind of thing to track your expenses, your money in and out. Some kind of emailing platform, whether it's Google or an email management system, definitely there's a full range of that. And the customer relation management system, some people still do that on a Google. I know people that do it on a Google Sheet, but as you grow, that's the other part of it. I think as you grow, you have to think about, if I have 10 clients and I grow to 100 clients, is the system going to work for me? Or it's going to work for me now, but I'm going to have to look at something different when I 10x my business, or when I 5x my business, or I add another offer that has something completely different in it, that needs a different type of technology. I used a coaching platform for a really long time, but then realized I was using it, but the clients weren't using it. And it was supposed to be an interactive thing. And I always tell my clients, always meet them where they're at in technology. If they're a Google Sheet person, then okay, I'll go to Google or whatever. So I try really hard to meet them where they're at, because it makes their lives a little bit easier. But I always do recommend other things too, that could be better choices. Mr. L, come on in.
Yes, thanks, Sondra. I think we all agree that we need to use technology to advance our businesses. There's no doubt about it. And as to which one you should be using, that will depend on your type of business, what you want this technology to do for you, and how you want to apply it. But then I just want to throw something in as a question. What is it that we shouldn't be doing when we want to use technology, or when we are researching technology? Because sometimes, as I think Peter mentioned, you will go through 20 different systems and find none of them work for you. So what should we look for? What should we do? What should we guard against, so we don't spend a lot of money, so that we don't waste a lot of time, so that we can be effective in what we want to do?
Thank you, Mr. L. That is a very important question. Go ahead, Peter. You can go first. I have thoughts, but you go first.
Okay. I think the very first thing that we should be doing in regards to when we're looking at technology, and this is something once again that Krista mentioned, was groups. Groups of people that are experiencing technology are vast amounts of information on what their experience, like actual experience, has been of a particular software. So if you are in a group of people, or you're networking in a particular group, and there's a bunch of similarities between your business and a few people in that space, then the best thing to do would be to go and ask them, what are they currently using, and why do they use it, and what does it do for them? Does it do everything that they need? And they might respond going, well, actually, it does almost everything, but it doesn't do this. And then you would speak to somebody else and they'll be like, well, mine does this and all of that. And then you've got to figure out which of those things is the least needed in your space and which direction are you going to test in. And I think that's the point where test would be the obvious word is test. Most spaces would have a like a free space that you can actually test out the basics. But do yourself a favor and don't get caught with the test it out. But you're going to get charged later when you're not even using it. Don't get caught out like that. Because that can be a rough one. After a while, you realize you're having all these expenses and you can't figure out why. And then you realize, oh, you've been paying for this particular software for a year and you haven't even used it. You just tested it. So be careful for that. But I think that's number one. The people around you that, and based on their experience, and they can learn from you just as much as you can learn from them. And you can go, well, I'm using this and it doesn't do X, Y, and Z for me, but it does do this. And they were like, well, actually, that's what we're looking for. Maybe that's what we need. So number one, people, relationships with people, networking, based off of real experience from real people that have actually tested software because they've tried to use it. You'll probably get honest feedback from somebody. If they really like something, they're going to tell you, oh my goodness me, I really like this. I speak like that when I'm talking about Jira marketing, the CRM, because I really like it. It really does what I need. And I will speak to other people about that. Sondra will know. We've spoken about it. When it comes to things like Let's Yak, we've been part of its journey. I will speak highly of it. And, hopefully it will help somebody else. But at the same time, you need to use what works for you. What works for me might not. So that's where having conversations with people will help you figure out what direction to go in, whether it's not even worth paying for it. Whether the higher paid tier is what you need, whether you need that emailing, or can you have a CRM that has an additional emailing software built into the CRM? Do you need to have a separate emailing software and a separate CRM, or can you have them together? Can they be one? And the answer is yes. But now you've got to go find it. So I think I'm extremely blessed with the space that I'm in, because I think I've managed to find one that functions within the course building space, with the CRM, with the emailing capabilities, all included in one space. And that's what I need. That's what I personally need. So, and I know a lot of people that are a lot like me, so we can have those discussions. So, but I think your task would be to go find a lot of people that are a lot like you and have similar needs to what you need, and then go and have those conversations. You will learn a lot. I think that's number one, people.
I love that. I love that, Peter. There's a feature on that same platform, because yes, I'm using it too, that I haven't tested out, but I know some people are testing out, is community. You can build a community on that platform. I have not tested out that one, but I know two different people, one in our circle and one outside of our circle, because I also do think that's true too. Ask people in different communities that are like you, because we want to support each other. So we might recommend our community person's platform because they're in our community and that's who we adore, and we want to help them. So make sure you vary the communities you're asking into, so that you're not getting possibly a skewed perspective of, okay, we like this platform because our community member sells it. It is what it is. That's just part of it. Okay, Hendrick, you know better. You can't lower your hand and not speak. Only because I always want your perspective.
Okay, I think the reason I ended up lowering my hand was because Peter actually addressed also what I wanted to say. But in addition to what Peter said, I think for you to know what tool or technology you should bring into the company, you need to ask yourself questions like, what solution is it bringing? What problem are you trying to solve by having this certain tool or this technology in the business? I used to have from our website, someone would be able to type in their questions and it would come directly into our emails. So we had an app which would take questions from the net and directly into our emails. So we were trying to generate revenue or have contact with people who ended up visiting our web. So in addition to what Peter is saying, yes, you need to know as to when you bring a tool, every tool or anything that you bring into your company, it's more like one of your employees. Either it needs to work for the company independently or someone in the company needs to use it to advance the position of the company. So there has to be that link between the employees and whatever you're bringing into the company.
I love that. I love it, Hendrick. Technology platform as an employee in your company. That's definitely a good perspective. Peter, you were talking about trials. I had a financial coach that always told us to put the day before the trial would end, put a reminder on your calendar to go cancel the trial so you didn't get charged. Because she used certain tools and the free version worked. She goes, go use the free version. I use the free version. And then I upgrade and cancel it. And she goes back and forth on a specific financial platform. And she's like, you can do that. It's acceptable. So that was always her tip, was put a reminder on your calendar or your task list or whatever for the day before, not the day of. So, okay. Oh, go ahead, Peter. We're getting close to the end. Time flies.
One thing I do want to mention, however, is if you do find a software, something that's really important in regards to software is what support do they have? It doesn't help that people create software and then when you have trouble with that software and you reach out and they're non-existent, then you're forced to find something else. But if you are finding a particular software and you find that their support is impeccable, you have a particular problem and they have a feature within their software where you can go, I'm having this particular problem, and somebody instantly writes back to you and goes, we're going to look into this, we're going to do X, Y, or Z, and then they get back to you and then it becomes a form of communication between yourself and the provider of the software or the tool or the solution. Then that is golden. So if you come across something that kind of works for you, it almost does exactly what you require, but you might require to do something a little bit different. If you have the ability to reach out and for there to be communication between yourself and I find that I stick with spaces where there's that level of communication, because sometimes they might not quite get it right as to what I need, but when I communicate what it is that I need, they have the ability to communicate back and go, well, actually, we do have this feature coming out. This might actually be, and that will be coming out on this date. And I'm like, oh, great. I'm looking forward to that. And it just makes the experience from you as a user of the technology just a whole lot more pleasant. So I think just bear that in mind. If you come across a space that's got zero support, it will last for as long as that technology lasts, which is not very long, not very long at all. In the background, the Ignite students, and I did this about 2 weeks ago where I forgot to give you a code word and it was my fault. And then you guys ended up getting twice as many views because the students were actually looking for the code word that I didn't deliver. So to your students in the background, what I would actually like you to do is to send some of the code word, which is hashtag inspiration. So to your students, hashtag inspiration, and to then maybe just send her a message about something that you've learned from this coffee shop conversation show. And then send her a message to say that you've shared this on your social media, whether it be LinkedIn, Facebook, whichever space you want to share it. If you want to share it across multiple spaces, be my guest. Tell Accessable where you've shared it. So share, hashtag inspiration, and a little message of what you've learned. And we will be catching up with you soon as you go through your week with Linda Dent, the numbers ninja, while you're functioning in the background.
I love that. I love that, Peter. So yes, the students are being very interactive, especially Christopher. He has a strong, great opinion about definitely different ones. So shout out to him and shout out to the other students. I think at one point there was 15 watching. So definitely shout out to all of them. I like hearing your feedback on what you learn. That just helps fuel me to like be better. For sure. I want to thank everybody for being here. I want to make sure we thank Susan, who does our graphics cover. She does our show notes. If you ever want to talk to any of us, our LinkedIn links are in the show notes once they're published, which usually is within 24 hours of the show. So, get with us, get a coffee chat with us. I've talked to a couple of students in the past, and I always am willing to have that conversation with people to get to know them. And then we also are on Spotify. She just takes the show and turns it into a podcast on Spotify. So make sure you follow us on there. And then, of course, Miss Somerville, you already mentioned her, but she's always in the background doing all the things. We have a saying, get yourself a Somerville, just not ours. So for sure. My name is Sondra. I am a goal accountability connoisseur, and I help you create your goals, create action plans, and then hold you accountable 75% more likely to achieve something with accountability. So Peter, you want to tell any last words? And of course, then you get to do your sound off.
I think my last words would be to the students. I'm glad you're watching in the background. We want to share this content as far and as wide as possible, and you guys are literally part of the entire strategy as to how we're going to do that. So if you're in the background and you're a student and you're watching, you're part of my strategy. So get with the program and share, which is great. And I think I'll direct this statement as a closing statement to the actual Ignite students. And the statement would be from our infamous Miss Nestine Boiter, and it would be, may all your wildest entrepreneurial dreams come true. Peace out.